since 2009, the science has gotten even sweeter, kind of like Greco-Roman wrestling. So you really have to understand the sport, its iterations, what happens, the chronological landscape, etc. It's really a sweet science. It doesn't have it doesn't have one aspect that you can focus on that's going to create improvement. There are many aspects that you can focus on that can create that can and are going to create improvement. But you have to know which aspect to focus on at which time. Now, here's what we also have to understand: past occurrences do not predict future behavior. Just because you won 3 matches does not mean you're going to win the fourth. This is just because you were the 2007 world champion doesn't mean you're going to be the 2008 Olympic champion. Just because you've won a bunch of matches doesn't mean you're going to win the next one. And just because things have happened a certain way doesn't mean they're going to continue to happen that way. But it is all we have when it comes to science and when it comes to trends and when it comes to tendencies. Because tendencies become tendencies over time. Tendencies become tendencies over time. As players or referees or coaches that have a tendency to do a thing, a lot of other people pick up on it, it becomes viral, and it becomes a trend. Let me not get into that too tough. Before I get ahead of myself, let's start from the beginning. All right. Now, before you walk onto the mat, before you even bow, before you tie your belt, put on your gi pants and your gi top, there is a phase called the pre-Hajime phase, which you are in. Now, that pre-Hajime phase can be years or it can be months or actually seconds. But on a continuum, that pre-Hajime phase is what occurs before you walk onto the mat. If you've never stepped on the mat ever in your life, okay, ever, and you're going to walk on the mat tomorrow, everything that has happened to you before you step on that mat tomorrow, that's your pre-Hajime phase. When you need to understand that there are internal and external factors and environmental fabricators which affect you that you bring to the match. And you need to do a SWOT analysis on these particular things. You need to understand what your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats for success are if you're going to be successful on the mat. As I said before, the pre-Hajime phase occurs over a continuum of time, as you can see. And there are external factors such as family, socioeconomic status, the opponent that you're fighting, the crowd, the referee, the practice or practices that you've had, your particular practice, how you practice, and the way practice is structured. That's why I have practiced twice. Opportunities for success, coaches, residency, your location, friends. And then you have genetics, race, ethnicity, prior experiences, innate knowledge, emotions, self-discipline. Now, people, anytime that I give this seminar, I always get stopped here. People say, well, what do you mean race? What do you mean? What do you mean race? Why is race a factor when it comes to pre-Hajime? Why is that a factor? We're all the same. Listen, we all might be the same, but we're all not treated the same. And let's just leave it like that. But we're not treated the same. When you see a tall person as opposed to a short person, you don't treat those two people just the same. You say stupid stuff like, hey, how's the air up there, to the tall person. This is what you say. That's just what you do. And it's not that you mean to do it, it's just that's how you're programmed. And when we have to look at the pre-Hajime phase, you have to understand when you're coming to the table, you come to the table with certain things. I can tell you that I have analyzed enough matches. And it's hard for me to put my finger on it, but I have analyzed enough matches to the point where I truly believe that writing down or having race as a pre-Hajime factor makes a difference. and that's why it's on there. And I'm not getting into anything else because I don't like causing any arguments or anything like that. Okay, that's not true. I don't mind causing some arguments or stirring up some controversy from time to time, but that's not a point that I'm going to argue about. But if you'd like to talk about it, we can talk about it further, without doubt. Now, here's the bottom line. As the time decreases, as the pre-Hajime time decreases, the factors before the Hajime increase and have an increased propensity towards having a great effect on the outcome of a match. Meaning, if you are married and you have an argument with your wife 2 years before walking on the mat, it's not going to have a great effect. But if you get ready to walk on the mat and your wife stops you as you're coming out of the tunnel and say, "Hey, I told you that I don't want you leaving the toilet seat up," you may look at her and look up in her face and be like, "What are you talking about, woman?" And that may have a great effect on you right before you walk on the mat. Just like there are certain people that you don't want speaking to you or talking to you right before you walk on the mat, because they can affect you in a great way. If they talk to you months out, it doesn't matter. But as you get closer to competition, you kind of have to section yourself off from people, because you have to reduce the fabricators and the factors which can have an effect on your ability to compete. You must reduce them, because here's the bottom line. As you get closer to Hajime, the impact of those factors increase. And they increase exponentially. Just imagine if right before you're getting ready to walk on the mat, somebody came up to you and grabbed you by your shoulder and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you about your taxes." Come on. There's a reason why they section off the fighters and they don't want you, or the competitors, and they don't want you talking to them or touching them, etc. That particular time is too fragile. And the question is, how can you manage this particular situation as a coach? How could you manage that situation? When you have a problem with your back, who do you call? You call the back doctor. You call the chiropractor. If you have a problem with your toilet, who do you call? You call the plumber. You have a problem with your judo game, identifying the problems and fixing them, who do you call? And you call a coach. You call a coach. You call a coach. And see, this is the part that a lot of people don't understand when they get so caught up in Uchimata, Osoto, and Koichi, and all this foolishness. Don't get me wrong. Moves are great, but teaching and coaching are different. Teaching and coaching are different. What is a coach? Man, a person who instructs or trains certain aspects and fundamentals. In some cases, a private tutor. I coach. Somebody says, "Oh man, that Rhadi Ferguson, he doesn't develop any judo players from the ground up." No, I don't. Not my job. Not my job. I'm a private tutor, if you will. I help any and everybody who needs help. All right. This is what I do. The question is, do you need more than one coach? I believe you do. In this judo game, I believe you need more than one coach. And how do you know what kind of coach you need? Well, that's why you're here today. So let's take a small cognitive break, if you will. All right, we're going to take a mental break here. And we're going to go on to something. Not something else, but on to something. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. If you had all the money in the world at your disposal, would you be a better judo player? If you had all the money in the world at your disposal, would you be a better judo player?